All right, here we go. Getting this party started on our, I don't know what you want to call this, a new Superman trailer reveal.
Right, you watched it, right?
I did watch it. I did watch it. Now, so I watched Tyrone Magnus react to
Okay.
it the other day, but I didn't watch it myself. And he was pretty visceral. So I stopped watching his reaction immediately because I said to myself, I don't want the waters colored by whatever it is he feels about this thing cuz he does not like this movie already. Like he has not given it,
Yeah.
they'll be hard pressed to get a good review from Tyrone Magnus. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm up in the air. I typically if I didn't like it I wouldn't cover it. So as of right now, I like it. There seems like there's issues, but I like it. I don't expect it to be perfect. But what was your I guess your initial take or your deep take on that?
Initial take.
Yeah,
Are we recording?
we are recording.
Okay, so um my my initial take when I saw it was like, this was it. This was what we're so excited about. Everybody's, wow, 5 minutes. We're gonna get. It's not 5 minutes. It's a couple minutes extra of one scene.
Right.
So it you could say that was disappointing, and to me, in a way, it is that because you know. But there were several rumors going around. It's going to be 5 minutes here and a new trailer. It's like, oh, okay. So I watched it carefully. Uh, I still feel much the same way that I did before. Some things, several things are changed, slightly here and there.
Okay.
Uh, the trailer part at the end, there's little bits of like a 24th of a second or something further along. You get to hear Lex Luthor speak and say he's back. Little
Right.
minute things that happened there. And they took out several things, at the same time, like walking into the building, can thrown at his head is not in this. So,
I don't think the fans like that scene too much. It almost seems like this trailer is maybe an attempt to remove some of the things that fans didn't really like. I think some of these
could
studios
be.
are listening. They're
It
trying.
could be, but at the same time, the scene is there from the inside. It's still
Right.
got that quick shot. But there's just little things that are moved around. As far as the beginning, and I heard in an interview James Gunn seemingly saying this is not really the full opening scene, but it is the beginning of the movie, kind of the opening scene. So what it sounded like to me, but it sounded like it was edited somewhat. So
Okay.
now, so yeah, shout out to Tyrone Magnus for it
Ooh,
was one of the first ones that I watched
it
doing it.
was spicy.
Well, and he's mad because he said dogs don't behave that way. At least in his experience, his dog didn't behave that way,
I think he's
where it
accurate.
just was doing that.
Yeah, I
So
think he's
I'm
accurate in
like,
that
okay, I
assessment.
can see that. Now, shout out also to John Roca. If you watch John Roca, he
I
says
didn't watch
something
his.
similar. He's watching it, and it's like, whoa, and they're taking it for comedy, and he a little bit later says, that's a choice, and kind of mentions you're taking a chance with that as opposed to doing it a different way and stuff like
Right.
that. So I think it lasted too long. If you're gonna do it with some comedic element, I don't think 5 jumps on his body was a good idea, which is,
Probably
I
not.
believe, the
Yeah.
number that there
Probably not.
was. It still has the same couple of problems that the major criticism I have of it is to tear that suit up. If you're gonna have him have a broken body, tear up the suit, show some bruises underneath, and
Right.
show that he's really been beaten. That the suit can stand up to what Superman can't is
Doesn't
insane
make
to me.
sense. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
make
it's no
sense.
common sense to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, shorten how much the jumping is doing, and have him, because he does at one moment he tilts his head. The dog does, and and it's like, oh, he recognizes it finally, sort of, and
Right,
then
like something is
he
wrong.
jumps around again. So yeah, I would take out a jump or two probably of that if I were them and tear up the suit. That's me. So you have that later on too. And I watched probably a dozen or more reactions. Most people, of course, uh, reacting positively to it. In an exaggerated way. I think then there's just not a lot of criticism going into it. I just love this movie. It's so great. The greatest Superman of all time. All
So
of the Snyder fans will eat their words.
here's my question to you:
Okay.
Do you ever watch Chris Gore from Film Threat?
hmm
So
And
Chris
watched his a couple of things that he went over
recently,
recently.
yeah,
hmm
because he said one of his friends was at the early screening,
hmm
and he
And really
said,
enjoyed it,
yeah,
and
he
a
said a
lot of
lot of
positive
people in the
stuff. He came back and said somebody else came out of there with a different
right,
take on it. And I think that's what you've got is people have different takes. There's going to be extremes. People are going to hate it no matter what. People are going to love it no matter what.
right,
I think people should
very
just
true.
be honest about it. I want
Yeah,
to enjoy this. I really would love to. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I think, yeah, you're going to alienate some people. Like, what? The dog would never do that. That, I think, is what the straw that has broken the Tyrone Magnus
he
back
was, man. I
is
mean, Tyrone
dogs don't
Magnus
behave
was
that way.
not happy at all,
No.
at
He said
all.
he's done with it. He's going to watch it, and he would say that it's good if it turns out to be good, but
Right.
he doesn't expect anything good about it now.
I
So,
so I have a somewhat positive outlook in this regard. Now, I'm not naive. So I recognize that there's issues in some of the trailers we've seen. All of the trailers, really, there's issues. My positive outlook is there there have been, and this has happened before with a great number of movies where there's been a bait and switch between what we got in the trailer versus what we actually saw in the movie. Like that has happened. There's
mhm.
been movies where the trailer everybody's like, I don't know, and then people go see the movie and it's like, yo, why did y'all give us those trash trailers? Like you had a bunch of material you could have given us that would have made us love this right out the gate. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm my positive outlook is I can't judge an entire movie right out the gate off a trailer because
Oh,
a
absolutely.
trailer doesn't offer you enough context. Because for me personally, I know there's movies that if I went back in my mental Rolodex, I would go, yeah, I remember seeing this trailer and I wasn't really like super impressed. Like, I'll keep it real with you. That first Captain America movie, yo, I wasn't sold on the trailers. I was not sold at
Mhm.
all. I was like, in no way, shape, or form was I like, oh, this is gonna be great. And there's people who don't like that movie, but
Mhm.
Chris Evans convinced me he was Captain America in that movie. And the feel of that movie felt like traditional Captain America. And I left the movie theater like, yo, that movie was actually pretty dope. But watching the trailers, I didn't think the trailers were bad, but they didn't give me that feeling. And so
Okay.
that's kind of where I'm at. Like the trailers may be a little misleading and maybe that's done on purpose.
Could be. And really we only have one trailer and an extended scene of that same trailer slightly
True.
recut. And for the recuts, there's a couple of positives. We see our first glimpses of smirks from this new Superman finally in this trailer when he's looking at the girl automaton or whatever it is, automaton,
Right.
the the bot, yeah. And he just does a little bit of a smirk and she giggles and says he looked at me. Um and I'm not into criticizing the scenes. Like, you know, the one character says one thing and then it's obviously different with the other.
Right, right. I noticed that. I noticed
Who
that with
cares?
the
You
two
know, it's
droids.
like
Yeah.
I can get it.
Right.
Um. Uh. The other part of the scene was when he's sitting on the porch with his Paul Kent, Jonathan. There's just a hint of there's more dimple and a slight smirk before the rest of the scene comes up, which wasn't in the other one. I will note that the cows move. They heard me speak about it. The cows do move now in that scene. They're still too small, but cows move.
They're
They
act-
actually recut that. They re-released the trailer because they moved one of the cows for the original, the official trailer. You go back and look at it and see. But they've moved all three of them now.
Okay.
Um,
I'll have to look
yep,
at it.
it's in there. So no, I'm a nobody. I'm sure they didn't hear me, but somebody must have said something like,
And
"What
look,
in the
a
world?"
lot I really do believe the recutting of this trailer was due to the complaints of a lot of fans, cuz
Could
some of
be.
the things that you brought up the last time we talked about this trailer, like here's one thing. Did you notice that kaiju scene, there was like a couple more seconds to it? I noticed that.
There's a little bit
Yeah.
more to a couple little parts in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't, however, like
they
I was
haven't
look
stopped snapping that little girl's neck
that's what
yet,
I was
though.
gonna say.
They haven't done it. So
Hey man, look, it's Superman. He has, supreme control over all his muscle fibers. So he bent it just right where it's not gonna snap. He did it just
yeah,
right.
he can hear and he can tell how far. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, we'll give the benefit of the doubt if they
Yeah.
never fix that thing,
They probably won't.
but like I said last time we were talking, I've seen other people complain about it. They're not looking at me, so other people notice it too. It's really just a matter of common sense. How many screenings can you have, and how many 60 plus people audiences before they look at that opening scene and say, "Why isn't his suit ripped up?"
Yeah.
Somebody. It just
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. That and it's probably just, and I think I brought this up before, it's probably just one of those small oversights that while you're
Mhm.
on the cutting room floor, you're probably thinking, nobody's going to pay attention to this. But little do you know, nah, fans are actually pretty
I
adamant
think
about paying
it-
attention to every detail.
And I probably would give it a pass even. So like the Man of Steel suit wouldn't tear because it's skin tight, it's Kryptonian and all that, so it's not going to do that.
Right.
But when they show you the kaiju's, throwing fire at him, and when he comes out of it, he's walking into the building afterwards with this burnt suit and chest emblem. It's like, okay, there can be damage to the suit. Common sense. Just just slow down a little, guys, and common sense it. But to me, I mean, the rumors of it being seen by people, and then somebody comes out and says, "Oh, yeah, my friend saw it and it was so amazing," and then another person comes out and says, "Well, other people didn't like it," and some people come out and they're like, I'm going to be." It's like, yeah, it's a movie, but it's not really what we were hoping for with what
Yeah.
we're calling Superman. This is the problem. Or too much humor. He doesn't know how to dial back like he should, Um, I don't know. That's where I line up. I mean, but I'm going to see this movie possibly more than some of these people that say it's the greatest Superman ever.
You're
I'm
probably
going to at
right.
least watch it twice, and that's
You
more than some of them are going to
look,
watch it
man,
in the
you're better than
theaters.
me. Even the movies that I love, I don't go watch twice. Well, I take that back. There's one
I
movie.
watched Snow White twice. I've got to watch this
Oh
twice.
my goodness, I don't know how you did that. There's one movie that I saw two times in the theater, and I bought the DVD, and I just watched it recently. They had a showing at the planetarium here where I'm at, and that's Interstellar. Interstellar is arguably greatest space movie ever created. Not
Okay.
sci-fi space movie, even though it is sci-fi-ish. it's like sci-fi realism. That's kind of how I quantify that one. But it like special effects, sounds, that movie is just immaculate. That is an immaculate movie. I love that movie. But typically, I'm not going to see a movie twice. It just doesn't typically have. I think there's like maybe 2 or 3 movies in my lifetime I've done that with. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
movies I've loved that I haven't done it. So about The Suit,
Okay.
maybe that's one of those things where we don't have context and there's something about The Suit that we just don't know and we won't know until
Mhm.
seeing a movie. I think that's a possibility.
I'll give you that it's a possibility, but I don't think so.
You're probably
It's
right.
yeah.
You're probably
There's
right.
been every kind of theory and excuse there could be for the suit. That's the first picture that was put out was this. Oh well, that's not really Superman, and he's going to get a new suit at the end of the movie, and this and that. And there's like 5 different excuses people made. Oh, his mom made the suit, like she did in the comics, and that's why it's baggy and everything else. It's like, man, come on, we just look at me, Tyrone Magnus. We're looking at it and saying, this is not good. This just doesn't look good,
Yeah, it's not a
and you can see when Crypto jumps on him. And I mean, I looked at it again. I was like, oh, there's Dad Bod Superman again. This is just so obvious and could have been easily fixed a long time ago because there's enough people looking at it to say, wait a minute, I don't think so, And
so
to think that they either didn't get that or James Gunn is so arrogant in some senses to say, no, we're going to do this way no matter what. But like I said, all these rumors of like, it sounds like 5 or 6 screenings that they've had and reshoots and recutting of things. Like, if you got such a great movie and you're so confident in it, why are you going to do it that way?
I
And that's it's disheartening is the problem.
part of me wonders if we have a situation where there was a movie at play and versus scrapping the entire movie, Gunn came in and said, we're going to fix some things and do this my way and we're going to make it work. I wonder if that's what happened, because I could see if you got a movie that's pretty much already done, built for Henry Cavill, and you come in and you say, well, we're going to recast and we're going to do, a few different things here and there. I could see how this could happen because you start to get messy at that point because you've taken somebody else's work. Now I don't know that that's what happened. Part of me
It,
wonders if that's what happened because
yeah,
Henry Cavill was gearing up for a Superman movie.
hmm
Clearly there was a script. What Superman movie was he gearing up for?
right. But all of the statements and all the news that came out at the time was that's all completely scrapped. James Gunn did his own thing to write the screenplay and do all the stuff. So, if you take it from that point of view, and he's coming from Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad and seeing what was changed and put into these other movies after Black Adam and after they said, "Oh no, Henry, you're not coming back anymore." That's where I come in and I'm like, "Oh, I see what he did. I see what he did to the entire the DCU after Black Adam, which was the
Hmm.
last somewhat successful released movie.
What'd you think of that
Everything else
movie?
has bombed since. I liked it, but I'm not a huge Black Adam fan, and I'm not a huge fan of all the anti-hero kind of stuff.
You're kind of like me.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I'd rather that he came in as a character with the Shazam stuff because I enjoyed Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and Shazam, the first Shazam, of course,
I haven't watched Fear of the
all of that.
Gods yet. I have not watched
Yeah,
it yet. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. So
it's probably
uh,
it's probably good. I tell you what to go back to your point. Let's circle back a little bit. What I was talking about earlier. Shazam, that first one, I thought that movie was gonna be trash. I
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be trash. I saw the trailers. I was not a believer at all. And I think was it me and Ezekiel? Yeah, I think it was me and Ezekiel went to see it, and I was like, boy, this
Yeah.
was a marvelous movie. And I
Hmm.
was not expecting that. Now, could that have been low expectations going in? It could have been, but I don't think that was the case. I think that was just literally a very well done movie that the
Yeah.
trailers did not do justice. So here's my flip side. I'm gonna offer you this, and you tell me what you think.
And I would mention to that probably the reason the trailers were so lighthearted was in a response to this idea that, oh, it's so dark in the DC universe. So,
Mm,
oh, we're going to introduce this, and hey, this is the flavor, but it wasn't really as far as the trailers say, and
right.
very well balanced. Is
It
that
was.
was very well
That's a
done.
good way to put
But
it.
go
That
ahead,
was a
yeah.
very well balanced movie. That was a very well balanced movie. What was I gonna say? I was gonna get to a point about
Oh,
that very thing. Um, I was gonna ask you. We were talking about Shazam, the trailer. Oh, do you think that Superman possibly has a very maybe similar approach in that? And this is kind of same question I asked earlier, like maybe Gunn seeing what happened with the first Shazam, because look, yeah, if I could, I'll have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure people were like, this Shazam thing, I don't know. And then they came out the theater like, yo, okay, maybe he's going for that. Because think about this, Superman comes out. If it's really bad, I mean, like nobody's going to see it. But if everybody thinks it's bad, but everybody coming out of the theaters like, yo, nah, this movie is fire, that is going to make people flock to the theaters even more. Like if let's say we make a video, it comes out, we make a video and you come back and you're like, "Oh yeah, this is one of the greatest Superman movies ever."
oh yeah, I
I'm
was misled by all of the marketing that
right.
this is absolutely fantastic.
It's
That's
look,
I would love for that to be the case. I would love to be able to come back on camera and say, "Hey, totally." It that would be my statement, though. It's all misleading because I thought through this before you came on, and I was like, "Man, this is they're not to me anyway. They're not supposed to issue out teaser trailers. This is what it was supposed to be. I'm looking at it right now behind our screens, official teasers trailer. You don't issue a teaser trailer with so many questions. Like, what is that? What are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? Not questions like, oh, that's interesting. What's going on? It's why
I see
did
what
you
you're saying.
decide to do that?
Yeah,
And
you're
get the backlash. You
right.
the Man of Steel teaser trailer. There's a couple of things that I was wondering, like, why is it shot that way? So
Mm,
there's a blur to Superman at a point, and I was like, why? Why not be more clear? But that was probably the only thing. But it's just fantastic. The teaser trailer itself is fantastic. They criticize it for coming out a year before the movie instead of like 6 months or something like that, but the trailer is amazing. You go back and watch it, it's still one of the greatest trailers there is, teaser trailers, in my opinion, and many others. So,
yeah.
and that's just objectively so, and it's
Yeah, I would
it's
agree
it's
with you.
beautifully done,
Yeah.
and it's beautifully done in the way in the shot setup and everything. Like s- this Superman comes out and they're talking about look up and you see him fly, and you only see him for a third of a second, if that, flash across the screen. In the Man of Steel trailer, just to compare him, it follows Superman and what he's as he's flying upward. It's
So,
like, whoa, that is
yeah,
amazing.
and I think so probably one of the major differences is the aesthetics. Like when I saw Henry Cavill in that Superman costume, I was like, okay, I'm not really a Superman guy, but going to see this one. This one's gonna. And I went to see
Yeah,
what was the Superman before that one? Was it Superman Returns? Was that
yeah.
one?
Superman Returns.
So this is what I think, and I think I mentioned
And
this
that has
before.
really good trailers too.
It
The
does,
Superman
but the
Returns does.
movie itself was
It's a
a
mixed
let.
bag, I
It was
think.
it was a
So it
letdown for
depends
me.
who you are.
Um, it wasn't
I just try to take it for what they say it was, which was a continuation of
the
Donner, and I'm like,
right,
okay, I'll buy into that and say it was good for what they tried to do, I
right.
think.
That which
But they
I
shouldn't
give
have
you
done
that.
it that way.
Yeah, I'll give you
Yeah,
that.
I don't
For,
I don't
for,
think they should have done it that way. They were gonna do other things, and they certainly should. The um Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage really should have been the next Superman movie.
mm,
You know, so
yeah, there's a lot of movies that we should have gotten that we just missed. We just missed.
just
Um,
and it's
yeah,
all greed from the studios. They don't know what they're doing.
I part of me wonders so part yes, I would agree. Part of it is greed. But I also think part of it is there's a lot of people who are geeks, right? Like I think James Gunn is a I think I would call him a geek, but being a geek doesn't mean you know all. If I'm a director, I'm a geek. I've been a comic book reader since I was 12, but I don't know DC because I'm not a DC guy other than Batman. I'm just not a DC guy like that. So if I was a director and somebody said, okay, we want you, you've done these great movies, we want you for Superman. All right, I need to get somebody in here that really knows Superman that could really like challenge me, give me some things. I don't know if you watched I did a video on Marvel Rivals, so the video game.
Yeah,
So it's put out
I'll go
by
watch it.
I can't remember why can't I remember the name of this game studio now? I think they're pretty sure they're Chinese. Anyway, you know what they do when they add a new character, they consult with the comic books, and for what they don't know, they get comic book historians. Like they get people that know comic books and they
Mhm.
consult with these people. And everybody, I haven't played the game, everybody I know who's in the geek space, they all say this is the greatest Marvel game ever. Hands down without question. Now, maybe that's not true. So don't come for me in the comments. I'm just telling y'all what I've heard about the game. I have not played it myself. But I mean, I can believe it. If you're going to make sure, hey, check the comic books. Okay, now we need to get some aficionado on this character or this book and we need to hash this out and make sure this is right. And I think maybe and we've already brought this up multiple times. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but I brought that up to say maybe Gunn believes himself more of a comic book savant than he actually is, and maybe he thinks that his way is the way, and maybe he needs somebody to kind of humble him a little bit, like, hey man, look, you're a great director, but there's gaps in knowledge for you with comic books and what really translates and how this should be done. So maybe you should
Mhm.
get somebody else, like a sidekick that can kind of rein you in, like, yeah, that sounds good, but no, it doesn't translate well. Let's do this from the comic books. Because costume, right?
Yeah.
Like that was probably the easiest win.
Oh
There
yeah.
there I'm sure there was somebody around him that said, this costume, James, we don't know about this one. Coming off the Henry Cavill Man of Steel, I don't know how people are gonna feel about this.
You would think so. It.
I think that probably happened. If I had to guess, I would think that probably happened, and maybe because you got to think he's coming off the success of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mhm.
I mean that most people coming off a success like that are not just gonna sit down and listen to anyone tell them how they should
Yeah.
do this movie. Like,
I guess it depends. I think I've watched a few kind of things behind the scenes, but especially with Man of Steel one, watch that. But I'm not gonna. talk about that part of it. But it also may be the costume people that he has too. He might have brought them over at the same time, and so they have a same kind of aesthetic
Mm,
idea
okay,
themselves.
that's a good
They're
point.
like, yeah, this looks good for us.
Right.
I look at it and I'm like, the 30-second icon clip, he flips over and then all of a sudden he's got this big pooch of a belly. I'm like, okay, the air's flowing down his suit and it's pushing out the belly, and that, yeah, it looks stupid, guys. Come on, you know this looks bad. Surely you know this looks. Look at every other flying shot of any other character. It does not look like that. Please,
In
you
their
know,
defense,
fix it.
the scene isn't that long. I mean, it's long enough to
It is.
notice.
It, yeah, and I think they want to make an excuse instead of say, okay, you're right, that doesn't look good. I don't know what we were thinking exactly,
And
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 then
yeah,
fix it. But then they come out with certain promotional material. Like, you saw that, like, I don't know, 6 pictures that they put out,
no,
and
I'll be honest. When you brought up this trailer, outside of me seeing that Tyrone Magnus
looks enough.
video, I've been checked out as far
Well,
because look,
Tyrone reacted to the pictures as well, and some of them he's like, "Yeah, this is neither here nor there," and some of them were like, "No, that's bad. That doesn't look good. There's a weird looking standing pose where he raises his hands straight up, and it's like that. This doesn't look right. It's something weird." And there's a flying shot of him going forward. He's sort of smiling, but it's showing off that big field of blue at his belly, and I'm like, y'all can't see the dad bod element of it. I don't understand
do
at
you
all
do
how
you
they miss it.
think that maybe they are too much trying to embody or encapsulate the feel of the original Superman movies, the Christopher Reeves movie? You think maybe they're trying too hard to call back to that? And
Well,
maybe that
even that, he's still skin tight though with that.
he is.
And I mean, I looked at it. Some people were criticizing, like, this suit looks so amazing. I don't know why people hate it. And I heard several people say it's back to the original. I'm like, no. I mean, the color, light blue, sure, and some red, but that's it. That's all you've got. It doesn't look like the Christopher Reeve suit. There's It's just got so much bulk and in the wrong places, and that's the thing.
You know what it might
And
be? You brought up a good point. I didn't think about this. You just brought up a good point about James Gunn possibly bringing his costume people from the Marvel
mhm,
world with him. And if you're making costumes for a traditional hero, some padding, some other things, like if you're making a costume for Thor, there's some padding in there, Captain America. But when you're making something for Superman, Superman's a different kind of character. Like the
mhm,
padding is just not something he wouldn't need padding. That's why we call him the Man of Steel. Like you do that on other heroes, but you don't do it here. And maybe that's to your point,
right.
maybe that's exactly what happened.
Which makes perfect sense for all the other heroes in the story.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't. Most people we don't even care about their uniforms. Yeah, Mr. Terrific looks just like the comic books, or some people have said that. I don't know because I'm not that big into him.
Right.
The
Same
pictures
here.
I've seen are fine, but then they're like, these others look stupid, but they're supposed to be stupid because, and then they make all kinds of theories up, and that's what I hate about it, because we don't really know anything. We have not seen a trailer that shows the story or anything like that. So until we get that, I'm not going to be able to say, yeah, this is really terrible. It just, there's release after release of, why did you do that? No, please don't. And then multitudes of people photoshopping, taking the lines out of the suit and making the muscles show and all that stuff.
That's
Say,
hilarious.
see, you can do it. You can Photoshop it and make it look good later. Well, they're also proving that theory is ridiculous. They're not going to do that unless they turn everything around right now, But Is it?
That would be the
I was,
biggest bait and switch in history. You go to the
yeah,
theater
I
and
was sitting back like, I know you guys don't really think this, and to me, that's worse than a negative criticism. Saying hey, this suit doesn't look good, guys. Oh no, they're gonna fix it in post, and so you just watch and see. And then they don't, and that same person's like, "Oh no, but this is a good-looking suit. It looks better than I thought it was actually looking. Now that I see him laying on the table or something like that in
people
one shot." I
people want to
think they're
like it.
gonna hide it a lot. I think they're gonna
Yeah.
hide the problems with the suit a lot. However, me looking at that scene that they are promoting as this scene, I'm like, I can see the problem. Can't you? It's
Yeah.
so obvious to me. And
Yeah.
that, like I said, was my major criticism about it. The other stuff, I'm like, oh, they added a little thing here. They added that there. The little orb in the background is obviously being attacked by Guy Gardner because you see the little ray, the green ray toward him at a certain angle and then it moves. So I'm like, okay, so there's something going on outside. But why? Again, why is he sitting there with Lois? Why is this
Right.
happening? Why did they issue that as the first release? Not he's standing there or not he's picking up the children like in a quick moment. Why
So
didn't you
again,
release that as the picture of
again,
him doing stuff?
back to my point. And this would make my point actually make a lot more sense. You have something going on outside this window, obviously, that would require the attention of Superman, but we don't have Superman paying any attention to it, which leads me to believe there's some huge context missing. And
Mhm.
when we see the scene, it's probably gonna be like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Now, I will admit, if we get to that scene and it is just that there's some action going on outside and he's just like calmly sitting there and him and Lois are exchanging some pleasantries or musing over some drama, yeah, then that would be
Mhm.
like, this kind of doesn't make sense, right?
And now, what would be worse than that, though, is if it turns out to be all the things that these critics that now are lovers of James Gunn have said badly about Superman, Man of Steel, and Batman v Superman. Oh, he did this, and now they're telling him to stay out of the business, and all those criticisms, which I find are totally illegitimate of those movies. Um, and then James Gunn does the exact same thing. It's like I heard this rumor just the other day, or just no, just today, just before you came and got on. One of the guys that I wasn't gonna watch him because he's a fanboy of James Gunn, but at least he's honest about it. He's like I love everything he does, so and but he said that he theorized that the other crowd of superheroes said go sit this one out, go have a date or something like this, some weird partial theory to get him out of the way and not deal with this situation. I was like, man, I don't take the way he said it to be the way it would be, but I was like, man, what if that theory is true and James Gunn is doing all those things that I've seen criticisms about? And I'm going to watch the critics come out and say, oh, this was great, and this was a great idea, and da da da. And I said, don't you remember they did that in Batman v Superman, and you said it was no good? And
Yeah, I
that's what
think
I hate about critics is that they speak both ways
right.
and don't see the hypocrisy in it. I'm gonna be honest. Since I don't like the suit. I don't think I'm gonna like the suit once I see it in the theater. But it won't necessarily, ruin the movie for me if the movie's good.
Well,
I just don't see it succeeding,
y'all know how I do on
unfortunately.
my channel. I try to keep it positive. These conversations are more like fan critical conversations, not necessarily negative. But if you don't see me covering Superman, you know what it is. Because if the movie is not good, I will say no more about it. It will not be covered here because I don't. I mean, I'm being honest. I don't have the energy for the negative coverage. Like if I don't like it, I'm just all right. Well, move on to something that I like. You know,
Yeah.
no need to cover that. Let
Yeah.
it die on its hill. But
I
I
may
think
sound. I don't know how negative I sound sometimes.
you're not. I don't think you're negative. I think you are rightly critical. Like criticism where criticism is due. Like there's things that should be. You're a professional, right? You make movies as a profession. You got a professional soundstage guys. You got professional lighting guys. You got professional editors that can cut out whatever you want cut out. So if there's like obvious problems in this edit, in this, preview, come on. This should have been fixed on a cutting room floor. Somebody should have caught this. You guys are professionals, right? Like a bunch of screenings, clearly somebody was like, "Hey, shouldn't we fix this or shouldn't we maybe we need to move this here?" Like what Tyrone Magnus brought up about the dog. It's a legitimate criticism. Like I have seen dogs react to people who are sick. So when he said that, like I didn't think of that at first, but when he said it, I was like, yeah, he actually has a point. Dogs, when
Yeah.
they know you're sick, you're down, and you're hurt or something like that, they usually approach you with caution and care. That's what I've always seen from dogs. So yeah, it's kind of like
Right.
it's just kind of
And
different.
I think he could have even given it a pass if, like you said, it wasn't repeat, 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 and to where Superman was screaming multiple times. That was it was just overdone.
Right.
I think he was watching. Was like, what? And saw the jump on him. And I think that if it had stopped after one more jump, and the tilt of the head happened, Tyrone would have been like, okay, they played it for some. I don't know if I buy it. I think he wouldn't have gone off like he did, but it was after a little bit. He just kept having more and more horror on his face and walked out of the room. Just like, there's no way.
He was big mad. He
Yeah,
was big mad.
and I
And
think that's what is going to happen is that people are going to see it. It's going to be divisive, one way or another.
I think the climate we live in, Don, I think it doesn't matter. I think whatever movie you put out, there's and this is one of the reasons why I always like to say these things are very, very, very subjective. Like we could completely not like the movie, and for whatever reason, someone else for its creative value. And I've brought this up before. I do not like Batman versus Superman. There is nothing you can say to convince me that was a good movie. You can't. There are some things about it that were good. Nothing you're going to say is going to convince me that was a good movie. But people praise it. People love it. I've encountered other people that kind of feel like me, like that wasn't a great movie. So things like that, I think it makes it. This is why I like what you said about that dude who's a fanboy but was honest. I like actually listening to people like that because I'm like, okay, you can be honest about your fandom of this person. So you're letting me know I'm a fan. It's going to color the way I see this. So I can at least say, okay, so there's probably some maybe errors in judgment because you have tunnel vision. But I can at least take that and go, okay, so maybe I need to look out for some things after watching this review. The thing about the divisiveness of just modern geek culture in general, like I remember, and this is kind of going back, I remember watching movies that people said were just utter trash altogether. And I'm like, did I see a different movie? Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I keep asking myself, did I watch a different movie than everybody else watched? Because I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was the greatest Marvel movie ever created, but yo, I thought, I was like, Kang was menacing. Like the dude actually had you feel like, yo, this is a threat. Like Thanos level or worse threat. That's gonna be a big problem. I felt that way, but then I watched people's reviews and it was like, this was trash. I hated it. This is the worst Marvel movie. And I'm like, yo, I did not get that impression. That is not the impression I got when I watched that movie. But I think the reason that is, I had made a post on my X account that I think, let me try to pull it up. I think this is accurate. And for me, this makes it somewhat hard to watch certain coverage and hear certain reviews
Mhm.
because I don't think people can be objective. I think some of that objectivity is actually being removed by hatred. Let me try to find my post because this look, this has been something. Okay, this is what I said. I'm convinced that the internet has enabled some people to be addicted to hatred. That's what gets clicks and views, and thus people overindulge. We all have likes and dislikes, but to constantly rage is not healthy at all. Social media isn't the cause, social degradation is. And I think because of social degradation, there's this addiction to hatred, which almost by default makes everything divisive.
Mhm.
Like we can sit here and have like constructive criticism about the movie. Like, here's what I think. This obviously needs to be fixed. They shouldn't have had this. This is Superman. Superman is not going to have a dad bod. He's the strongest man on earth, strongest
Yeah.
man in the universe, right? So like
And I don't think that he does have a dad bod, but the suit
the
doesn't
way the
do him
suit, right?
justice.
The way the suit looks. That I think that's a legit
Yeah.
criticism.
As I was thinking about it too, I was like, I don't, I'll go either way with the trunks. You can argue for them or against them, but the size of the trunks is what makes a difference to me.
Right.
And Brendan Routh's to me was too small, and the S was too small on the chest. So there's this huge field of blue on it. He's a tall guy, so
Right.
it's just like way too much blue midsection with small trunks, almost and these are too big. These just they look comically too big, and that's the problem. If they had made them a little bit smaller, and of course, there's a lot of stuff that they should have done, in my opinion. But again, I think they're going to hide most of that, and we're not going to really see it, and probably not care about it, hopefully, as much. Um,
Maybe.
and I'm looking forward to a trailer that actually not tells the story, because I really don't want them to spoil the movie. That I'm totally against that.
You want to go in
So,
surprise.
yeah, I want to go in and have the idea that just to clarify a little bit, this is not an origin movie. It's but they've just gone back and forth with the story of what it is, where it's coming from. I think they ought to change it back to legacy, because it sounds like they may be doing this idea where like if this is the beginning of the movie, while he's healing and recuperating, maybe the story of something that happened goes on,
Mm.
a
Yeah, that
flashback.
yeah,
And like several times this happens, which I've heard. I haven't watched it, so the All-Star animated movie is supposed to be something like that, I think. So I mean, that I could buy into and be like, okay, you're gonna do it that way. And if they are
believable.
doing it, flashbacks wouldn't necessarily be chronological order, and it'd be this and that. But watching the trailer, I'm not really getting that indication of that, and I'd rather have an inkling of knowledge that this is how they're going to play it. Either a straight, this is the story, or they're going to do like that. Here's that story, and here's this story, and here's this other story over here, and tie it together somewhere in the end of it.
What if this is part of it as well? What if this is part of it? And this goes back to what I said, what you brought up actually about the divisiveness of a lot of what we see. What if it's that James Gunn knows we're in such a divisive time that no matter what I do, there's gonna be some group hating. So whatever I do, I'm just gonna stick to whatever I've done. And this is the inherent issue in what I would call the hate mobs. Like what you create, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like you actually create the thing that you keep harping on because if you can't please everybody. And I think everybody feigns themselves a movie creative savant, so I know exactly what James Gunn should have done because I am a savant who has elevated to a level that you peasants cannot understand. I got things I like and I don't like, right? And there's going to be some things I just like and I don't like, but I'm no savant with movies. I might go in and this movie might be great. I think more conversations need to be, not to toot our own horn, but I think it needs to be more like this. You have a criticism, you're not raging. We're not sitting here going crazy. Now, I enjoy some of those channels that do it. I will admit, I do. It's hilarious. But I think we need to understand that that's also part of entertainment, right? It's entertaining to watch, some people rage, but I think you don't get constructive criticism. Like, imagine if there was mountains of people that just said, yo, I don't know how I feel about this movie, and here's the reason why I don't know how I feel about it. I just don't like this. If you created, let's say you made a YouTube video on your Bible channel and somebody said, man, you know what? I like it when you do this, but this right here, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Can you explain? You might go, you know what? Maybe I need to adjust this. But if you get a mob of people saying, bro, you suck, you need to change, you suck, you need to, you're going to double down. Like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do whatever I want to do because I don't care what you say because you're just a rage mob. I think that's beginning to backfire. I think it's those rage mobs are actually creating the very monsters they think they're trying to heal the entertainment industry of. That's just my personal view, because otherwise some of the criticisms that James Gunn has gotten, and they've been loud, it doesn't make sense that you don't look at those criticisms and go, yeah, that actually is a problem. I think they're right. I think this needs to be adjusted. Like the suit.
Could be.
Everybody has complained about that suit. If I don't know a person, I don't know one. Maybe there is one. I haven't seen him.
Right. I'm take the testimony of Tyrone Magnus that he said in his comments, it's like 50-50. It's that people absolutely love it and people just hate it for various reasons.
That's a good balance.
I think though too that those people that love it would still love it if everything was changed that the harsher critics want changed. They would be like, oh yeah, this is still great. This is absolutely fantastic. I heard one guy just hating on the collar. And I'm like, I don't care whether there's a collar there or not, but make it look right,
Yeah, right.
And I don't think it looks right. I think that there's some issues with it. But also, again, I think I'm not really going to see it very much. That is not what I notice when I have seen these several releases. It's just the collar.
Now that you say it,
the collar sticks out when people tell me that it's this or that. Oh, that right there, that picture, that's obviously the Ultraman suit because it's a rounded collar where the other collar dips down more. I'm like, no, his neck is leaning forward into the dip. So that's what's going on. I can see it. Like, now you're making me look at it. What is the point? But if they didn't have the collar, nobody'd say anything. There'd be no comment about it.
So I'm looking at a stills, like a cartoonized version of Corn Sweat Superman costume, and it actually doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. So I
cartoonized.
Yeah,
they tighten it up and everything else.
No, it's actually still kind of baggy, and it doesn't look terrible. I think I got a lot of questions. I do have a lot of questions because I see some shots where it looks baggy, and then I see other shots where it's like, oh no, it's not that baggy in this shot. So I don't know. I wonder if
that's been the point
on screen. I wonder if on screen through the movie, because here's another issue, and somebody brought this up talking about video games, but it applies to this as well. When you're watching a preview of something, you have all the time in the world to slow down, rewind. What is this? Zoom in. What is that? Why'd you do this? When you're actively watching a movie, I don't know if you've noticed this. when I'm actively watching a movie, unless I watch that movie a second time, people will point things out like, bro, I didn't like this. I'll go back and watch and go, yo, I missed that. I watched that whole movie
Yeah.
and I paid attention, but I was so locked into the action that small thing that was a problem was just that, a small thing that I wasn't going to notice in, the myriad of action scenes going on. And I wonder if, part of me wonders if there's going to be so much going on when he does have that costume on that bagginess never really is a factor. But I don't know. Maybe it's just wishful thinking.
Yeah, I mean, my response would be that it's weird that Gunn chose to release exactly the wrong things, though. The first shot, it's like him bending over with baggy arms, and it looks weird. And
Why
it's
these
just,
scenes?
why did you do that? Where everybody's wondering, why is he slouching around and
Right.
just now putting his boots on or something, or
Show
maybe
us
he's
the scenes where he got
taking
the
off
guns
his
out.
boots.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are you thinking? Yeah,
Yeah.
and right after releasing, David Cornsweat in the gym was like, look how big my arms are. And I heard in an interview, it's like, want to get you in the gym and you want to focus on your shoulders. All right. And because that's going to broaden his chest a bit, and working on the shoulders and make him bigger. Because David Cornsweat, I've always maintained, is much skinnier and doesn't have a
He's
foundation.
not wide enough.
Yeah, he hasn't had the builds that he has needed to get to where people were saying he was going to get to. And he still doesn't, it just doesn't measure up. And people say, oh, but he's even bigger than Henry Cavill. I think if you put Henry Cavill next to him, you're going to see a huge different muscularity between the two. And Henry Cavill's going to be a little bit shorter.
And Cavill has a wider back. That makes a difference.
He does. He's broader and all that because he's built himself up over a much longer time frame. And that's what I was saying earlier on, was that people were talking about how he's going to bulk up. I'm like, bulking up is one thing. Like The Rock can bulk up and he is huge, whereas somebody else, I can't think of any names of a smaller person that might be in wrestling, but they'll bulk up and they're a little bit bigger. Their arms are a little bit bigger, but they're not broader. They're not filling out in all ways.
Right.
Yeah, they don't get massive. But yeah, it's
could it be? And I've brought this up to you.
It was the choices. James Gunn said, "Here, we want to release this," and we said no, and they said. And some others were like, yeah, let's see what he does with it. And James Gunn is siding with the ones that say, yeah, let's see what he does with it, rather than, why did you do this?
I'm going to make a reverse prediction. So this can never happen, obviously, because we can't go back in time. Put Henry Cavill in that same costume. People would question it, but they would go with it. I think the bigger problem is, and this is unfortunate, and I've brought this up before, I think Cornsweat is living in the shadow of Henry Cavill. I think it was a great disservice to whoever was going to come. It wouldn't matter who it was after Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was a transformative, like one of those people, just how people feel about Ben Affleck being Batman. People love it. And the fact that they didn't stick with that, people got a problem with that. And
well, I think my counter to that would be if you watch how Zack Snyder released photos. The first look at Superman was him having crashed into the bank vault front. And it looks amazing, even though it's a kind of an unusual looking shot. But the picture that was released, he looks fabulous, just amazing. But if you had released Henry Cavill in the current Superman suit, sitting down on a chair, going and not smiling or anything,
yeah, it was a lazy
grabbing
release.
a boot and folds everywhere on his suit, It's like, no. Now, if you had him just standing up and everything was smooth, then you're like, yeah, I don't see any problem with the
Fair
bagginess.
point. Yeah, fair
And then
point.
they might say something like, I don't necessarily like the lines, but apparently, and then James Gunn says, I don't want to make it look like he's wearing a muscle suit and a wet T-shirt or whatever he wants to say. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
I'll buy that, but when you made it look baggy, that's the problem.
yeah.
That's and I
Well,
still look at it. I'm like, the top part even looks. I can say this looks cool, sort of. Even though I don't like the S myself or necessarily the collar, but the top part of the chest is okay, and going down a little bit, it's okay. But then it gets to that midsection, and I'm like, how did you not? How do y'all not rein that in? And he's being carried by those four automatons, bots, or whatever.
right.
That looks pretty cool. That doesn't look bad.
No, it
The
doesn't.
whole shot. He's being held down by that looks cool. I'm like, I can see ways they can hide it.
Right.
They actually literally chose to put out these things
Which
in a bad way.
and this goes back to my point. It would be
I think
look
maybe it turns people away though, and they're like,
true,
I will never give this movie a chance and
true,
won't go see
true,
it.
true. But if enough people like let's say Chris Gore's friend who said it was actually good, let's say he's right. Let's just argue that he's right. Just
Let's
for the
hope he
sake,
is.
yeah, let's hope he is. For the sake of this discussion right here. If that man, whoever it was, or woman, don't know who it was, is right, this movie is gonna go, it's gonna be out of here. Because as fans react and people come out and critics
Mm-hmm.
come out and everybody's like, no, you don't understand.
It's
Imagine,
great.
imagine
Yeah.
Nerdrotic comes back and says, I was wrong. This movie's actually, oh, he wouldn't even have to rave about it. Just saying this movie's actually great. It would be over. It would be people out of respect for what he does, knowing that if it's terrible, he's gonna blast it. People would in droves go see this movie. It would be a great. Now, is that the best way to market your movie? Nah, it's not wise. It's a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that this is what is done, but I mean it's a possibility. It's a possibility. Now I'm gonna say it's a very low possibility because I don't see somebody. I don't see movie executives approving that. Like, yeah, market the movie like trash and then it's great. And then yeah, I don't see that. That marketing meeting didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not gonna do that. So I
But
will I'm not
it's been suggested that if James Gunn let Zack Snyder do the marketing, that they would be doing a whole lot better right now. Whatever they put out is like, like I said, there's not a whole lot I can see. I see it's more the stories. I go back to Henry Cavill was coming back. They said, go out and tell everybody you're back and watch the movie Black Adam. And they did that. I don't know if they're claiming that studio executives expected it to make $1 billion then because Henry Cavill said, I'm back, we're going to make Superman 2. But if that's what they were expecting, they were that's their own fault. Again, greed of their stupidity. And things were in motion, but that from that story and from that point, and then him meeting with Gunn and Gunn's coming in, I see this whole thing, story, that's leading up to Superman is coming, this Superman, and the things that are being revealed and just some statements that are being made. I'm like, man, I just see the writing is on the wall. It's like they've already done things in these other movies that are coming into this movie, even though this is supposed to be the first, because they tout that. It's like, this is the first movie, but Creature Commandos is important to this, and Peacemaker is all canon except for whatever, and all that stuff.
right.
It's like, what? I just see it, and I don't have any confidence in it, and that's that's where I'm coming from. That makes me more negative. Is that because I look at the commercials and I'm like, okay, fine, because I don't know anything that's going on, and the suit looks bad. You know, that's okay. But show me. I'll watch the 1970s Japanese Spider-Man TV show where he fights some weird rock monster. I'm cool with that because it looks awesome to me because I'm a geek or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But
People
so
want
I'm gonna
things that
watch the movie. I'm gonna be like, okay, but I'm
look.
gonna be like, I'm following this from a particular history too.
I said this in my video today, um, where I went over, or I guess by the time this comes out, it would be Friday. The video I put out about my top 5 comic book artists. One of the things I said is, if you look at a piece of art and anything, the smallest thing, there's a hand where the proportion isn't right. Once that catches your eye, doesn't matter what else is good about the art, you're not gonna like it. That one thing that was off has caught your eye, and it's like a car crash. You can't look away. It's like, why did he draw his feet like this? There's
Mm-hmm.
people who hate Rob Liefeld's art because of his feet. When I get it,
Okay.
I get it, because when you see things that are jarring to your eye, you're like, yeah, I can't unsee that. I don't care what else you draw, what else is goodness, but I can't unsee that. Maybe that's what's happening with the suit as well. Like, you've seen it, you know it's not good, and you can't, the suit is so jarring to you that you can't unsee it. And it doesn't matter what else they throw at you. You're like, yeah, but you still didn't fix that suit though. Like, here's this scene
Well,
with this kaiju and this. Yeah, cool. Where's that
yeah.
suit though? Mr. Fantastic and Hawk Girl. Yeah, but the suit. Guy Gardner, the suit. Kaiju, the suit.
For me though, it's like they keep showing that part of the suit. That's what they are emphasizing. Like, oh my goodness, I
It's
can't
like,
believe it.
because you didn't like the suit, would you like maybe more suit?
Like, yeah, it's like they heard me and was like, okay, now we got to show you the dad bod of him jumping on
Oh,
Superman.
that's
Like,
crazy.
oh my
That's
goodness.
crazy. Like, when are you gonna fix this? Yeah, I don't know. At this point, what do you do? Do you go back and reshoot the whole thing? I mean, you're already this far in. DC, look, movies right now, and this is why I am positive, and I think the geek space is actually getting some course correction. I was listening to, what was I listening to? It was a few hours ago when I was on my way to Home Depot. I was listening to a podcast, and in the podcast, who was I listening to? Anyway, they were saying they know somebody in the film industry that has told them that there's a lot of directors that are like, look, we just want the best actor for a role. We're not checking boxes anymore. And I'm like, yo, that's a course correction. This is a good thing. And
Mhm.
I think the positive side of this is, you can only lose money for so long as an industry before you go, hey guys, you hit us in the pockets enough times. We got it. We get it.
Mhm.
Like, hear the fans out, listen to what the fans are saying. So the first screening you show, once we say, yeah, this, and this, yeah, none of us are rocking with that. You got to address this, or there's going to be a problem. Because that's why I say somebody early on had to bring up, unless he had a bunch of yes men around him, which is very possible, but somebody had to bring up, bro, this suit coming off of Henry Cavill, you can't do this. Like,
That
that's,
reminds me, man. It's like I think it is. It's a bunch of yes men. There was a person that reviewed Snow White, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but he did not. He said, "This is not very good. Y'all messed up." Da 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 da. I don't know if I'll ever be invited back to another screening. Please, I love you guys. I love Disney. It's like he was trying his best to
but
make
he,
them
and
happy,
I'm
but had
glad,
to say this is
right.
not a good movie
I'm glad he
because you
was honest.
can't say it's a good
Right.
movie, you know.
I
And and
and
that is it. People get excited about seeing stuff too early and stuff like that. And like, oh yeah, it's great. And then they meet the people, and it's like, oh, you're really nice people and all that. So
I
they
think
They
I,
see little different things,
again,
I'm
I
sure.
think this is creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you go back to like Captain America. If this would have been just a Falcon movie, it would have been great. And that thought didn't originate with me. Somebody said it, and I was like, you know what? It's actually correct, because the
Yeah.
movie wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad movie. It had issues. You can tell where there was a bunch of reshoots. You can definitely tell
Hmm.
where, and I give them a pass for that, because in my mind I'm like, okay, you recognize there was a problem and you tried your hardest however you could to fix it before the movie was released. I will give you a pass with that. I can see the places where it's like, that's kind of messy, but I can tell there was a reshoot and they tried to
Hmm.
stitch these things together as best as they possibly could. But outside of all of that, the movie wasn't trash. But what Hollywood has done, right? And here's where the problem comes in. And I really think the reviews of Superman are in some ways a manifestation of this problem. Tyrone Magnus, when he watches any Superman preview, looks at any picture, he cannot get away from that suit. He is laser focused. Nah, bro, this suit, nah, it ain't doing it. They've created this problem, right? The industry has created this problem. Like, you
Hmm.
have fans are hurt animal backed into a corner, and now it's fight or flight.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you do, you're given no quarter, you will get no passes. Yeah, you gave us Mr. Fantastic, and he looks just like the comic book. Cool, suit's ugly. Hawk Girl, oh man, suit's ugly. Guy Gardner, oh snap, suit's ugly. It's like nobody's giving you any quarter on this.
His problem is his haircut. It's not right.
his bowl cut. But yeah, so again, I don't want to keep rehashing that, but I think the criticisms are warranted. I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. I have eyes that work, and I've watched the trailers. Now, initially, I will be honest. That initial trailer, and this comes from somebody that's not a Superman guy, but that initial trailer, yo, I was kind of pumped. I was like,
Hmm.
yo, I kind of like the music. I kind of feel like,
Yeah.
Superman of old. And I wasn't paying attention to
It's
the,
not in this one. None of
yeah,
that
no,
guitar
yeah,
riff is in this one.
no. Um, it
It's all
wasn't until,
orchestral.
yeah, it wasn't until people started pointing out the suit, like, and these are people that already had seen it beforehand and were like,
Yeah.
no, we're not rocking with this. We don't care how much you put into this trailer, what kind of guitar riffs. We don't care what kind of Americana you try to, embody. We don't care. This suit, we must change this suit. And I part of me understands that the monumental effort that would have went into changing the suit. Yeah, but they could have tailored the suit, had it tightened, and
Mhm.
reshot some scenes. They probably could have done that very easily. Maybe in a couple 2-3 weeks of reshoots with the suit
Mhm.
tightened,
Yeah,
redoing
that's.
certain things.
I don't know how long it takes, but my goodness, they were constantly when these pictures and behind the scenes shots were coming out, which you don't even know what exactly the shot is in the film, the angles and stuff like that. But they were constantly coming out and tightening it up and putting some muscles on there and erasing lines, and they're
Right.
like, "See, it's easy to do." And they're gonna do it. Some of them were saying, or some of them said, "Well, they need to do it." I think the need to do it may be the better approach to that. They need
Uh
to fix something, but I
yeah.
still think they don't even have to change the suit. In my opinion, for that scene, they just need to tear it up
Oh yeah.
in that
Yeah.
opening scene. That's all.
Right.
And I'd be like, I don't care if it's baggy or what, or it
That
makes him look dad bod or anything.
right.
Tear it up so it makes sense.
That's a
And once it
that's a
makes sense, I'm cool.
that's a great critique, because if Superman is hurt to the point that he has ruptured spleen, broken bones, like, this is the Man of Steel. Like, you're telling me
Yeah.
that his suit is stronger than him? Like, Like
Exactly.
there's some problems. And here's another thing. There's so many people and so much technology in the DC universe, comic book and movies. Superman doesn't have a nano suit yet. Like, come on now.
Oh,
What we doing?
I
What are
don't,
we doing?
I don't know if I want that anyway.
I mean,
Oh, I did
it
hear.
doesn't have to look different, but I mean, you got to go change into a suit. Come on. You should be like Tony Stark tapping your arm and then the next thing you know the suit is on you. Come on, that needs to happen.
Hey, it could be that
Now,
way.
what if this is a nano suit that can repair itself? Hey, I'm just saying.
It wouldn't be that baggy.
I tried, Gun. I tried to save you.
Now I have heard that the S shield that some people love and other people don't care so much about is that way because Superman is about to become essentially what do you call it? This public domain. They're not too many years away from it being just public domain.
I believe you might be right. I believe you
So the
might
trademark
be right.
copyrights
Wait,
is
no.
trying to keep that.
Hasn't that already happened? Because there was that movie that came out. It wasn't a DC movie. Oh man, what's the name of the movie where Superman was evil? He wasn't good.
Well, Brightburn
was a Superman movie.
It is a Superman movie, but I'd have to go back and watch again. I don't think they have like the Superman S or anything like that. The trademark stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
You're like, yes, that's Superman, but it's not that.
Did they expressly say he came from Krypton in Brightburn?
I don't remember. Yeah, I have to watch it again.
Now,
like I've watched it once, and it is so copy Zack Snyder shots and everything else stuff that I was like, okay, I don't really care about, and I'm not for this.
Hey man, Zack Snyder is the man. He knows what he's doing with a camera.
He's amazing, and he's copied all the time. And all right, that's great.
I still see people hating on his Netflix movie. I still see that. I still see it, like the Rebel Moon.
They're gonna keep doing it.
Is real. And again, that goes back to what I said earlier. But that's neither here nor there. I think
you've seen the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, right? Not just the theatrical.
I don't think I watched the Ultimate Edition, but I have Max, so I might go tonight and check it out and watch it. Like I said,
hopefully it's on there.
It should be. It should be.
That I promise you, if you go back and look at John Schnepp, you know who I'm talking about?
I might.
John Schnepp was with Collider or AMC Movie News and John Campea.
Yeah.
He passed away not too much longer after.
Yeah,
but he went and saw Batman v Superman. He's like, this is terrible. This editing is bad and blah, 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 blah. And he watched the Ultimate Edition. He's like, this is a great movie. His opinion totally changed on it. And
really?
That's true about a lot of critics that didn't like Batman v Superman, watch the Ultimate Edition, and it's like, this is the way that it was supposed to be put out.
So I see Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, but I don't see the Ultimate Edition on Max, which that would be weird.
It should be like 3 hours long or something like that, maybe more.
I'll try to find it. That's weird that they don't have it on Max. Maybe they call it? I wonder if they call that one a Snyder Cut as well.
It should just be Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't think it's on Max. I'll have to try to find it. I'll find it. It's on.
Let's see if I can see something.
Yep, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. So wait, I got 2 of them. Oh no, they do have it. I take that back. They do have it. Yep, Ultimate Edition. I see it. All right, I might have to check that out. Maybe that'll change my mind on a movie.
That might.
The movie I saw, I'm like, I have different eyes than everyone else because this movie was not it.
Yeah.
I was not
Well,
impressed.
and for that movie too, I try to see the critics' point of view. When I went into it, I'm going into it with the story that I'm, focused on. Sitting here reading behind the scenes, I'm like, this is what he's doing, and I'm like, okay, I see what they were trying to do there with this woman testifying in Congress. It was all a lie and made up and all that, but they don't really tell you that in the theatrical cut. They make it out to
Right.
be that she was telling the truth. In the Batman vs Superman, they make it very clear that she was put up to it, and
Mm.
that's just one example of one thing that's adjusted. So,
I
but yeah,
think,
I mean,
yeah, and I think my major problem with Batman v Superman. So let me clarify for everybody out there. The
was it
movie,
Lex Luthor?
the movie wasn't complete
Okay,
trash, but because I'm familiar with Flashpoint and I'm familiar what led to the Batman Superman fight, the actual fight as it happened, this is not something you can do or you should do in one movie. There should be a lead up, like several movies leading to this event. It's kind of like the Dark Phoenix saga. Like Fox, in my humble opinion, messed that all up. You don't do the Dark Phoenix saga in one movie. Does you know how many comic book issues that was? That whole Dark Phoenix saga and how many different things.
you're talking about both ways they did it, right?
Just the one they did. When was that? I can't remember what year that was, and it was pretty much one movie, and
With
that
the
was
new people,
yeah, and that was supposed to be Dark
yeah.
Phoenix saga, and I'm like, one movie? No, no, you can't do this in one movie, and for me,
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman, that is an event for the ages. One movie? No, no, nah. That's, and they to
I can
me,
agree with you with that too, because like I said before, and other things that Man of Steel should have been immediately greenlighting a sequel, not for Zack Snyder to follow up with Batman v Superman, but a legitimate next Superman installment.
right.
And then the studio had its notes and said, "You need to do this, this, and this," and he said, "Okay." And again, I will defend him to the end of time that he did the best. He did it the best way you could in the Ultimate Edition that was possible for what they wanted him to do so
Right.
fast.
Yeah. And
But
yeah, and
yes, they should have had another Man of Steel movie and should have
100%.
maybe in the meantime also create a Batman backstory to show you where he's at
They
rather
should
than
have.
introducing him later.
I
But
agree. I agree.
at the same time, like I said, they wanted to push forward too fast.
I think Ben Affleck was done dirty. He should have got an individual Batman movie. There should have been a second Superman movie. The second Superman movie should have came before Wonder Woman. Then Wonder Woman should have dropped. Then there should have been a Batman movie.
Mm,
Before introducing Cyborg, he should have gotten his own movie. The Flash should have had his own movie. And somewhere in between there, they could have had, an initial Justice League movie, like they come together for some reason or something happened. In the
mhm.
meantime, setting up Flashpoint, which would then lead you to a Batman versus Superman instead of just, oh, by the way, guys, no second Superman movie. Batman v Superman. Good luck. Yeah, so yeah, I would agree with you. I think
Yeah,
Snyder was done dirty. Ben Affleck was done dirty. But this goes back to,
repeatedly.
yeah, this goes back
That's the
to
thing.
executives trying to, and you brought this up, trying to rush things that should not be rushed. Like I said,
Hmm.
Fox did it with the Dark Phoenix saga. Like you can't rush that. You can't. The way,
That and they get their money a certain way, and it doesn't matter. You know, they get bonuses before the movies come out.
right?
And stuff like that to see how well the movie does.
I
And that's the issue.
I think the way Marvel did the Infinity Saga, that is the way you do an epic tale. That's
Mhm.
10 years of storytelling, 10 years of building up, 10 years of individual movies cohesively pieced together to lead to this event. And Endgame wasn't a movie that was without flaw, but people were willing to give the flaws a pass because you have built us up over 10 years to this monumentous event and you delivered. You didn't deliver without flaw, but you delivered. We'll give you a pass because this was epic. The way you did this, epic. We like it.
Mhm.
DC could have done that. DC, I
Mhm.
think I think they were running into this issue. They didn't want to follow suit with what Marvel did. 5, 6, 7 year whatever build up. They were trying to carve their own path, which I get.
Uh-huh.
I'm not mad at that, but bro, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is an epic
Right.
tale.
And I can look at it kind of either way. The way they did it could have worked if the studio would have stopped acting like it had to be done a different way. The way they perceived Marvel to be. Because they're perceiving Marvel's success in the current moment
Right.
rather than looking at it and saying, well, back then when the Hulk came out and
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man, that's when they started and did it. So if we're
Right.
going to follow them and do what they did, we've got to do it that way. They said, no, let's jump into this. And like, well, there's a way to do it with a lot of stuff, which James Gunn is doing. Say to his credit, this is a world that's already existing, and if he succeeds in it, that'll be amazing. You know,
It would be. It would
but
be. Really would.
so he's not starting out saying, "Oh, here's Superman, and let's bring in Batman wherever he is," because we don't even know who he is yet. And there's a lot of confusion when I look at it because they talk about Batman being an older Batman and not even being Bruce Wayne sometimes. It's all kinds of theories. And like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
have a
don't think
clue.
that's I
Might
don't think
as well just make the Batman of this universe and bring him in my opinion. But
yeah.
I don't know if that'll work or not. But yeah, the studio execs, like I said, it's about that money thing. And I think um it may be that Robert Downey Jr. taught Marvel a lesson when he started out and got the deal he got. And they're like, oh, we can't do this with anybody else.
I, I think
um
I think yeah, you're right. He did teach them a lesson, but I think it was a good lesson that they all benefited from in the
oh
in the
yeah.
in the long run.
Well, but then you see they're agreed with it. They're like, we're not going to give our actors this kind of possible benefit. It's like, why not? That would be helping them.
It's
And
an
again,
incentive.
and I see the executives saying, okay, release Justice League before, the end of the year in 2017. Make sure it's 2 hours long so it could get a whole bunch of showings and we get all our bonuses because of when it's released. It's like that's their benefit. But we don't care if it makes $1 or $10 million
Right.
or $100 billion.
Yeah.
We get this amount of money because of when we did this, and that works fine in like construction fields, but it doesn't work right this way. You got to incentivize somebody by saying, "Okay, this is a good movie or money making movie and stuff like."
So
They'll change a lot of what they do if that's the case.
so I'm gonna go back to something. I'll end on this and I'll let you give a closing statement, but I'm gonna go back to something I said before. Do you know when July 4th, 2025 falls on?
Mm-mm.
A Friday.
A Friday.
Yes. Superman missed a golden opportunity. Is this because they don't have confidence and faith in the movie? Truth, justice, in the American way. And
Mm-hmm.
you release on the 4th of July? Bro, that's guaranteed money. You could have had a campaign and had Superman literally say, truth, justice, and the American way, and you would have had guaranteed money on the 4th of July. That was like that. That was a swing and a miss that you didn't have to miss. That was an alley oop. Like you didn't even have to work for this. It was given to you.
All right. So is Fantastic Four coming out on the 4th?
I don't think so.
I have
I
have
don't
the
think
feeling
so.
that it's that or Jurassic Park is already set to release on the 4th.
Let's see what
Jurassic World
movies
Rebirth, rather.
are releasing
But
July
yeah,
4th.
I don't disagree. In fact, they could have done that, but they would have to come out and actually do that.
Well, yeah,
It has not been since Christopher Reeves,
yeah,
Superman, that he said, "I'm fighting for truth, justice, and the American way." And except maybe in the comics and some other iterations since then, but as far as shows and the movies, for example, in Superman Returns, Perry White says, "Truth, justice, all that stuff."
yeah.
And I remember criticisms coming about that. It's like he doesn't say the American way anymore.
That's
It's like,
crazy.
oh, it's true. It's like, we want him to be international, and he's a Superman for everybody all over the
I
world.
get it. I get what they're going for. So it's the 25th for Jurassic, whatever it's called, or Fantastic Four. But
Fantastic Four.
so it actually is July 2nd.
So it's like 2 weeks later.
Yeah. So July 2nd for Jurassic Rebirth, which is pretty much July 4th if you're releasing on July 2nd. But
it's that weekend.
I think it would have been a great double feature, Superman and Jurassic World.
They've shown you can do that with Barbie and Oppenheimer and make a ton of money on each movie.
Opportunity.
People will go and see it.
Yep. I think that was a golden opportunity missed by Superman. And I wonder how much of that is, did they not have confidence enough to release on July 4th?
I don't know. And I've heard that there's a date close to the 11th that has to do with them, but I don't know what that is. Because Superman Day was recent, I think. So it's not that, if I'm not mistaken. But I think they still could do it because they're putting out there July 11th. But all they have to do is change it to the 4th, or 3rd or whatever they want to say. But I'd say 4th would be better. And then come out with a trailer where he's speaking. Maybe he's being interviewed by Lois and he says, "I'm fighting for truth, justice, and the American way." And if he does that, you got an entire MAGA crowd that will be in this movie theater.
not just MAGA. I think you would have a lot of fans that would be like, "Yo, this is the Superman I remember. I'm going to see this." I think the opportunity you have there is, even if the movie is not great, it's July 4th. People are looking for something to do on that day before watching fireworks. People will go see a movie, go to their cookouts, all that kind of things. I think that's an opportunity missed. I really think it is.
Yeah, I think it's been mentioned enough too, though. So it's the same thing as every other criticism. It's been, why not this? Why not that?
So that'll be my closing. My closing statement.
It's up to the filmmakers. It's up to them to finally figure out, not just filmmakers, the studios as well, to realize that they're making films for the audience, to listen to the audience. I thought they learned a lesson because when The Rock was coming out, he was saying, "Listen, we are listening to the fans." I was like, yes, it actually feels like they're listening to the fans at this time. All the people behind the scenes, Zaslav was coming in. It seemed like he was listening. He knew what he was doing. And then, boom, it went into this again. James Gunn is the head of the studio. And I've heard several times some things like he's the one that's editing and he's the critic in the studio that would be talking about the trailers and stuff like that. So he's the only guy he's got to satisfy. So I've heard something similar to that. It's like, okay, he's better or worse. He's got too much power. He's got, or he sees it that way. And maybe he's too much into his own successes in certain realms. And of course, bringing in all his friends. Oh, bringing all my friends will be just as successful as any other movie I've ever had. And I don't know that that's the way he needs to look at it. I hope it's good. We haven't seen really enough to really say. And it's sad that they're going to lose people for things that could have been corrected with some basic criticism and common sense for some stuff.
Easily, yeah. But again, what will this movie actually be? Does the trailer tell the true story, or is the trailer just something to kind of keep us guessing? And maybe the movie is going to be something monumental. I don't know. But you guys can let us know in the comments what you think. How do you think this movie is going to be? How do you think it's going to turn out? What would you have to say right now? The movie drops right now. What would be your feelings going into the theater? And we'll leave on this.
Oh man.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, you put me on the spot because I've said it before in a whatever, not a tweet or something. I am going into this movie, if it were to drop right now, completely finished, of course, then I'm expecting a fabulous failure is what I'm looking at.
Wow.
It's just, I don't have any confidence that they're actually going to put out something that's going to appeal the way it must. And I've already said it has to draw everybody in. And I don't mean everybody as like a literal every last little one.
No, I know.
But it has to appeal to everybody that has their doubts and their worries and fears. And they have got to come out of it saying, this was a really good movie, at the very least, if not the best ever. But if they say, the people coming out saying exactly what James Gunn said, The Flash is the best superhero movie in history, and then we look at it and we're like, no.
So The Flash was the point where I decided, I'm almost positive that was the movie where I decided I'm just not going to cover things I don't like because it's just exhausting. And there's a review. I got a review of that movie. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And for me, that's where James Gunn lost credibility, because I said to myself, there's no objective way to look at that movie and say, this was great.
The best, yeah.
Look.
I even enjoyed it. And if he had said, this is pretty good, I'd be like, okay.
The special effects, when the Flash was saving all of those people and grabbed the baby, I was just like, yikes. Yikes. And to the credit of the people working the special effects, I know we're kind of going on a tangent. From what I heard, there was like reshoots and edits and things up to the last minute. So they didn't have time, and I get it. That's one of those situations where it's like, do we re-edit this without enough time and get something that doesn't even look decent, or do we just leave what's there? Whatever's there, whatever we have in that scene, whatever we work, just leave it. Because what we got was definitely not passable. That was not passable at all. I think what's his name? Ezra Miller. I think he did a fine job as Barry Allen personally. I think he did a fine job. A lot of people had criticisms in that area, but yeah. Who knows? But I'll leave on that. Yeah. You guys can let us know what you think, what Superman is going to be, good, bad, or indifferent.